everyone, welcome to the Star Wars Rogue One Spoilercast. I'm your host, Captain Logan, and I've got a good-sized panel tonight, beginning with Darth Eric Holden.
You kidding me? I'm blind!
Oh. How did you become Darth Eric, then? That's amazing.
I can see through the Force.
Oh, okay, all right. And we've got Connor Nielsen.
Hello, everybody. How's it going?
And we've got General Lowe.
Hello. That threw me off. I was like, that's not my name.
That's not my name. And finally, though you will not recognize him, it's Jackson Rasco.
Hi.
Yeah, you won't recognize his voice either. What happened there? Are you going back through puberty? What's going on, Rasco?
Reverse aging. It's cool. Try it.
That's great. So he's like, I grew my facial hair out because I know that in a week I won't be able to do that anymore.
Yeah.
So it's great to see you guys. It's been a while since we've had some of these folks on the Spoilercast or on a Spoilercast or on a Sunday night live show. Lo has been busy, and we haven't had her busy and pregnant, and we haven't had her.
I've just been busy being pregnant. It's so difficult.
We haven't had Lo in a couple of weeks, and Connor, I feel like we saw you a couple of weeks ago, and Rasco, I haven't seen you in 3 weeks, so I totally didn't even realize you had a haircut until yesterday.
Well, now you know.
And now we know. So anyway, well, that was fun. Glad we caught up a little bit. And now we're going to get into the Rogue One Spoilercast. Eric and I and Dan did the How We Felt About. So we're going to let you guys open us up with your best thing, worst thing, and overall thoughts initially walking out of the theater. And then we're going to do the Spoilercast, and we'll talk thoroughly about the movie and discuss the ins and outs of it. Let's begin with... Are we
going to do a best thing, worst thing?
Because we already have. We did that on the How We Felt About. Yeah. We can give. I mean,
I can actually talk about my worst thing.
You can. Now. We can give real quick general thoughts at the end of that, just to help get the whole thing started, and then I'll just piggyback off of something somebody said, and we'll try to cover as much ground as we can in an hour, a little over an hour. Let's start with Connor. Connor, what did you think of this movie?
I've seen this movie twice now, and I want to say, first off, that a movie-going experience makes all the difference. Because the first time I watched this movie, I barely even saw the first 10 minutes of this movie. What happened was people were taking pictures of the screen because they thought the Star Wars title would be there, and there was flashing everywhere. People behind me wouldn't stop talking. I missed crucial bits of detail, like lines of dialogue, like the line, "You are home." I didn't hear that the first time. That's maybe the most important line of dialogue between Jyn Erso and Cassian. I missed it. I was so nervous and anxious about all the people around me and whether or not they were going to talk or not, that I felt like the first two acts were just a movie in search of a plot with really boring characters. That was my first time watching the movie, and while I liked the ending a lot, I walked out thinking, I guess it was pretty good, but I have a lot of issues with this. And then the more I thought about it, the less I liked it. Then I watched it the next night with a much better movie-going experience. Some guy who I've never seen before, didn't know my life, we were sitting next to each other because we were in the handicap section where there's only two. It was reserved seating. It was a really nice 3D auditorium. And by the way, CG Tarkin and Leia looked much better in 3D than I would have ever thought they would. And I had never seen this guy before in my life, and we were reacting. I was pretending like I was watching it for the first time because I kind of was. But we were reacting with each other and having an experience together. And I'm never probably going to see him ever again in my life, but it was a kind of a special experience, and I like this movie significantly more the second time I watched it, and I like it now the more and more I'm thinking about it. The best thing about this movie is easily the direction. Gareth Edwards is maybe one of the best blockbuster filmmakers we have working today. This is only his third film, his second blockbuster, and I think he's a remarkable talent. His knack for spectacle, visceral entertainment is incredible, and I can't wait to see where he goes. He's almost like a young George Lucas or young Steven Spielberg. He's not trying to pay homage to that. He's like that, but in 2016, and that's pretty incredible. My least favorite thing about this movie, though, has got to be a lot of needless information in the first two acts that just kind of overly complicate things and muddle down character work. One of the screenwriters was Dan Gilroy, and he's the co-writer on 4 of the Bourne movies, and it doesn't surprise me. Those are movies that have really convoluted plots and really thin characterization, so a lot of the problems with the Bourne movies really penetrate this movie too. But I did really like this movie overall. I'm going to see it again. just so I don't have to watch Collateral Beauty for another day. So I'll probably watch it after we're done talking about it. So I really liked it.
What did you think, Lo?
I really, really enjoyed this movie. I think part of it is that I grew up watching a lot of war films with my dad. And I love the sort of dynamic of this like kind of lovable band of characters. And I think that's another reason why I didn't have a huge issue with some of the character issues, although I see that they're there, and certainly some of the characters aren't like the most fleshed out characters in the world, but I just kind of went in expecting that, just because I think that's sort of a staple of that genre. It is very different for a Star Wars movie, so I get where that can be jarring if you aren't expecting that, but it didn't bother me. My worst thing is definitely the CGI of the two characters that were CGI'd as either younger versions of themselves or like post-mortem. With Tarkin, it worked as the movie went on, I think, but that first sequence with him, I was just like, ugh, didn't like it and hated Leia. But I've only seen the movie once, so I'm not positive that maybe now that I know exactly what it looks like, if it'll just grow on me. Best thing, I would say probably just like, I got exactly what I wanted. If you go back and watch the initial trailer reaction that Dan and I did when the first trailer came out, I got this sort of like vibe that they were just going to be like, everybody's going to die and they're just going to be like holding the ground, like so this one person can escape with the plans, which is basically what they did, even though it was more like one person can send the plans. But, you know, you have all these characters that even if you don't think that their character development was amazing, you still kind of have this like attachment to them a little bit. And you watching them get picked off one at a time as they realize that like it's more important that they hold the ground and they don't let anything come on as people are coming. And I really wanted people to be holding off Darth Vader. I think I also mentioned that in the video, and we got that and it was amazing. So I was really happy with the movie. I really liked it. There are flaws for sure, but it's up there, definitely in my top 3 or 4 for Star Wars movies. Probably 3. I don't know. I'd have to really think about it. I've only seen it the one time, but I loved it. I thought it was great. I can't wait to see it again.
Let's hear from Rasco.
Okay, so my best thing was going to be the same thing as Connor, so I'm not going to go over pretty much everything Connor said. I totally agree with. The directing is amazing. I think Gareth Edwards is definitively, for me, the most talented director to work on a Star Wars film yet. That's just my opinion. You don't have to agree with it, but whatever. Let's move on. I really love how
I direct you to Attack of the Clones, sir.
I love...
Wait, you're directing now? Okay.
I really like how this movie to me channels a lot of the techniques that Spielberg uses to direct a lot of action scenes, especially Saving Private Ryan. I think if you watch this movie, the opening action sequence of Saving Private Ryan, I think is where a lot of the technique comes from, how you have a chaotic battle, but you still keep track of all the characters and what every character is doing and why specific actions matter. And along that line, if we're talking about characters and their actions, it also follows the playbook of how characters are handled in Saving Private Ryan, where it's not that you learn a whole lot about these characters and their backstories, but it's that you learn about the characters through the specific actions that they take. And that's very similar to Saving Private Ryan. I'd say that my worst thing with this movie isn't really a worst thing. I just think that this movie, being a war film, I think this movie could have been like 15 minutes longer. I think this could have been like a 2.5 hour long movie. And I think that would fix a lot of the little nitpicks that I think people have about this movie. And if you think that any of the characters are underdeveloped, I think that anything that you can complain about could have been fixed, besides like CGI Tarkin and Leia, if you have a problem with that. Most of the things could have been fixed with just 15 more extra minutes, I think.
I agree.
I have to know, and we'll talk about this, and we'll try not to make this too much of the spoiler cast. But I have to know if CG Tarkin was a problem for you, Rasco.
CG Tarkin is something I just cannot get irked by. It doesn't bother me at all. I'll say this: I really liked Leia at the end. Tarkin, take it or leave it. It doesn't bother me. I don't love it. It's just not something that takes me out of the movie, because it's not like they did a bad job, right? There's no craftsmanship issues. It's whether or not that decision worked for you or not. And
whether or not we're there yet.
Yeah, I would
and
say
This
it's
is
more
the
just
best
that
the technology could possibly look, and the only thing in the movie that will date it.
I totally agree with that. That being said, it just doesn't bother me. Like when I'm watching those scenes, for some reason, I can't care. I just can't care.
I know that George Lucas said he loved this movie, or he really, really liked it at least.
Oh, really?
I told you George Lucas would say that.
Cool. I hoped he would. I just figured he would be contrary for the sake of it. But that's great.
He just doesn't like Force Awakens because it's the same movie. He wanted something new and different.
But he also said Force Awakens wasn't character-driven and it was nothing but action. And compared to the
wrong.
prequels, I don't get that.
Well,
but
it's easier to criticize than it is to make yourself.
Exactly, but he kept comparing it to what he was doing. He was like, "Well, I was trying to make these kinds of movies," and I'm like, "I'm not seeing that really."
Well,
so I thought he was making a little bit of a leap, even if he is ultimately right, and maybe not for the right reasons. But it's cool to know that he enjoyed this because it's so authentic and close to the at least the first movie he was making. I'm sorry, someone was talking. Go ahead.
I was thinking, because Gareth Edwards was using that technology to recreate dead actors, that he saw that as pushing the boundaries of special effects and pushing the boundaries of cinema, and he probably really respected that. It's a young talent who's very ambitious and trying to do something and revolutionize something. Maybe doing this better than Tron 2 did, and maybe doing this better than, what was the other one? Like Terminator Salvation did. But the thing that Tron 2 has, and the thing that Terminator Salvation has, they're working with living actors. And this movie's working with a dead actor and an actress who is not in 1977 anymore. My thing is, knowing that that Tarkin and Leia are CG, knowing that going in, it definitely nulls the blow a little bit.
And I didn't.
I knew going in, I knew going in, and it bothered the heck out of me. And maybe it wouldn't bother the heck out of me as much if I hadn't have known, but I was almost like prepared for it, like bracing for the CGI.
I wish Ian was here because Ian would fight so hard with anyone that takes issue with Tarkin. And I had a conversation with Ian.
Yeah, but of course he would, because he's a special effects guy and he does that kind of work.
Yeah.
I'm not denying that they're amazing effects and they did really great work for what is what we're capable of right now. And like, it's not even that it necessarily looks bad. They don't look human to me. Like, it's a really weird,
I'm sorry, it takes me right
uncanny
out.
valley thing for me.
Yeah.
I feel like we're right on the brink of that technology getting to that place. And I feel like doing it now is just too early. Like, it sucks, but
I agree 100%.
Yeah.
But it'd be cool if this was like a crucial stepping stone into getting there, and maybe Star Wars is another part of film history by doing that. The thing is, I think when Tarkin is in medium and wide shot and in lower lighting, he looks great.
I'll agree with that.
The thing is, you're not just recreating Grand Moff Tarkin, you're recreating Peter Cushing. And Peter Cushing was a very particular, unique actor. His mannerisms, you just can't like recreate, and it can't help but feel like a puppet doing an imitation of that, because kind of what it is.
Well, and I mentioned this in the How We Felt About, but the guy doing his voice is not doing his voice. He's got his speech pattern, but not his voice, and that really takes me out too. It continues to not feel like Tarkin because the guy doing his voice is not doing a good enough job of doing an impersonation.
And I think CG Tarkin is a pretty minimal complaint of mine because he's in 5 brief scenes. The Joker is in Suicide Squad more than Tarkin is in this movie. I think that, honestly, at the end of the day, he has a couple important lines of dialogue, but he's not there for the sake of fan service. He's there because, and I heard like one person together, I completely disagree with that, because Tarkin is tied to the Death Star so heavily in that original movie that just getting rid of him and just putting him in hologram form, that's really not a good way of doing it, I don't think.
No, I think he should be there. I'm glad he is, but I would use the argument you just made to say that's why it's fine to recast him. He's not there too much. You might as well just recast. I don't think this was necessary, and that's why it's so easy to look at that as fans audience that isn't as familiar with Star Wars and hasn't seen, or even if you have seen Star Wars a lot, but you just like the original 3 and you haven't really looked at anything like a lot of people, a little older than I am, have probably done. Tarkin isn't a character that is all that memorable. He's not there all that much in the first place. So if that's a thing that's there and you don't even remember that character, or it's just not a big deal to you, and it takes you out because it's not a human being, recast it. It's not worth the distraction with important exposition and politics that are going on, especially in that first scene. And at the very least, have him, as somebody said, have him in low light more often. Because when it's dark, it looks okay. I will also say, though, I guess now we're talking about this, and then you can get to some general thoughts. Connor took us there, so I'm like, okay, fine. I guess we'll talk about that for a minute. But Leia, at the end, I was actually quite impressed with.
Yeah, I thought she looked great.
Yeah, Leia looked really, really, really good, I thought.
Yeah, I also think that even if you decided to recast Tarkin, I would have kept CG Leia at the end, honestly. That's just me. Like, if they were going to have her, because it's literally that scene. Like, the scene ends and then that movie begins. Like, and
it's like, you can hardly even call it a scene. It's so quick.
Yeah, and it's so quick.
Yes.
She turns around and you're there.
Leia, you can't recast because that would be even more distracting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right. Obviously, for like 3 seconds. Wait, who is that? It's some random chick with the Leia hair. Why do we do that? Yeah, you can't do that. So you either make it look good enough that you can have that scene, or you don't have it at all. And I guess it's up to different people's opinion as to whether or not it was good enough to be there. But that one looked strangely real to me. I was eating my words about Tarkin earlier when I saw that scene, because I was like, that actually kind of looks like she's really there.
Yeah.
And I was impressed with that.
When it came to Tarkin, though, to me, it's all down to his mannerisms, is why it kind of takes me out. Because when he's talking, he looks pretty good to me, even if his voice might just be a little not synced up. But it's when he's not talking and he's kind of like his face is kind of twitching and his eye. Peter Cushing was so unique in the way he physically acted and the way he did little quirks in his performance, and that's really kind of what took it out and felt like a puppet or a doll doing an imitation of Peter Cushing.
Before we get off of this, and we got to get off of this, Megan G says, for Christ's sake, people are acting like CG Tarkin and Leia were on par with young Jeff Bridges. As I said earlier, it is amazing work. We're still just not close enough. It does look way better than fake Jeff Bridges, but I can't deal with it for a similar reason.
It's still a fake person in a room with real people acting like it's a real person.
If the whole movie looked like that,
it's distracting.
I mean, you wouldn't make that, but if the whole movie looks
just
like
contrive a reason for Tarkin to have to wear a mask or something for the whole movie,
or just have it again.
I don't think that would have worked, Eric.
Because Eric, as you brought up, there are also a couple of other minor characters that we have recast in this movie.
Yeah. There's the beard guy who I don't think anyone knows his name from the first A New Hope. There's Mon Mothma. There's a number of characters from those.
Her.
My guess is that beard guy is in A New Hope in a small enough role.
Someone knows his name and has his action.
But that beard guy's in small enough role that no one's going to really notice. My guess is the major point in making this movie of doing CG Tarkin is if you're going to watch these movies back to back, it will be distracting as a different person. I could maybe think that they're thinking is someone watches Rogue One and then A New Hope, it's far more jarring if it's a completely different person.
But I don't know that it is, because are we still talking about Tarkin?
Yeah. I mean, a different actor. If it's a completely different actor.
Yes, but we can't act like recasting isn't a standard practice that has to happen, and that this movie does.
30 seconds before it. That's the thing.
Okay, but Mon Mothma is also there.
No, she's not.
Oh no, she's not. That's later.
No, Mon Mothma's not there until later.
Yeah, that's right. No, I know.
So she's
by the way, I'm not a Star Wars
some
guy.
years.
I'm not a Star Wars guy. And I've heard some people make the argument, well, you're only gonna notice the CG if you're a Star Wars person and you know Tarkin. And I don't think I had to know Tarkin for that.
No, you have to be a human being that interacts in the real world to notice that CGI. Okay, if you didn't notice, you're spending too much time playing video games. Go outside, talk to some people. It's okay.
We absolutely must move on. Sorry, go ahead, Connor. But this will be the last point on this topic. Go ahead.
I had correspondence with Steve, and he said that he had talked with people and they didn't even notice the difference. I don't care if they didn't notice the difference. I noticed the difference, and that's what took me out of it.
Yeah. And those people need to go outside, meet people, breathe some air.
Okay, so a lot of the reason, obviously, that we're talking about this for as long as we are is that, first of all, I mean, can we at least say one thing I will really say about that is, okay, it's a bold choice, and this
is a bold choice
filled with bold choices.
and I can also see the argument. Star Wars, even with the prequels, has always been about pushing envelopes with technology. Yeah. So, if you're gonna do that in a movie, Star Wars is a franchise that you do that kind of stuff with.
That is the only giant criticism I have, and even like somebody might bring up some things I haven't thought about, but like I don't have a whole lot story wise. So like that's kind of the main criticism I wanted to talk about. A lot of the rest for me is just, boy, did I love this movie. So why don't you go ahead and throw out some general thoughts and expound upon anything you said in how we felt about that you weren't allowed to say then. And then we will just jump right into discussion, and we'll make sure and start talking to our audience a little bit. Go ahead.
All right. Because there's two big things I couldn't talk about. One of them, I'm sure everyone's going to disagree with me, and they're all going to yell at me. But I really love this movie. Like I said that in how we felt about. I thought this was great. It was everything I wanted Episode 7 to be. It's a really different but still Star Wars-y kind of Star Wars movie. People keep talking about like characters like not having enough depth. I don't get that. Like, I think you get to know everyone as well as you need to know for this story and this kind of story.
Yeah, especially the story that's being
told. A cast this big, you're not going to get. Like, this isn't a closed room drama. Like, I know who all of these people are, and nothing they do ever surprises me where I'm like, that doesn't feel like something they would do. So, and yeah, I don't know. I don't have an issue with any of the characters. I loved, what's his name? Chirrut Imwe.
Sure.
I got a pop of Chirrut Imwe.
Yeah, we got Chirrut Imwe here,
I got
you guys.
Chirrut Imwe. I'm collecting pop characters I decided I like.
See,
this is Captain Boomerang and Sedona Thano.
This is what a blind pop looks like. If you can't see, your eyes look like this.
Oh, he should have been a blind box.
Can we just say
that's great? He should have been in a blind box.
Can we just say that he did a great job acting like he was blind?
Oh my god!
Like he actually did a lot of very specific things in his physical performance to really sell the fact that he was blind, and that was actually really impressive. I thought.
I think this is my favorite character so far to be specifically a bobblehead pop because it's like he's meditating and chanting, and he's like, "I'm with the force, and the force is with me. I'm with the force, and the force is with me."
I really I don't remember. Oh,
sorry.
You messed him up. You ruined him.
He's a prop. He'll get over it.
I think I might have mentioned this in the how did I
do that? I really messed him up.
I love the hair. I could not begin to stop looking at the captain's hair. He has such great 70s hair. It was lovely.
You're talking about the hair now?
I'm just talking about the captain's hair. His
best
hair,
thing, worst thing, best thing, Cassian's hair.
Cassian's hair looks the way I want my hair to look.
Diego Luna's hair defies everything in anything he's in. It's fantastic.
He's a beautiful man.
But
how did I do this to this figure?
I don't know, and I'm kind of annoyed.
No, I'm sorry. Me too. I didn't do that. Okay. Anyway, sorry, go ahead.
So one thing that I want to bring up that I brought up in the how we felt about that I didn't get to talk about because of spoilers is I mentioned that there was something from the first draft of Empire Strikes Back, and someone asked me what that was.
Oh, I just turned it. I just turned the middle part is all.
Oh, okay.
Good. Sorry, go ahead.
And it's funny because a day before we see this movie, randomly I'm having a conversation with Cap. I don't even know how it comes up, and I'm just like in the first draft of Star Wars in the first draft of Empire Strikes Back. We go to Darth Vader's home. He lives in a castle that has gargoyles, and it's on a lava planet. And then I'm sitting there, and I'm watching this movie, and we go to a lava planet with a big castle on it. I just poke Cap. I'm like, "You know that castle and the lava planet that Darth Vader lives in?"
Except that was not his attitude. His attitude was, "Holy crap!" He started pawing at me like a cat.
I love that. I love the Kyber crystal. We've used that a couple of different times. That's from the first draft of the original Star Wars script. There's a lot of stuff like that in this movie that I really dig. I'm pretty sure the opening scene is inspired by the opening scene of the original draft of Star Wars. There's a lot of deep pulls in this movie that I really appreciated.
Not the least of which taking a somewhat minor Clone Wars character and casting him.
Yeah.
It's Forrest Whitaker, no way.
Steve had to tell me that.
As Bail Organa, that was great. I didn't know that was there.
There's no way that guy ever thought he would ever reprise that role.
I was probably more surprised by this movie because I did not care about this movie.
Yeah.
So I wasn't following the production. So I didn't know certain. I didn't know Hannibal was in this movie. So when he's in the opening scene, I was like, "Oh man, Isosceles!
It's Isosceles
here!"
For anybody that didn't see the Doctor Strange Spoilercast, we couldn't remember his name, so we dubbed him Ice.
I think it's Caecilius, right?
It's Isosceles.
So my major criticism with this film, the thing I couldn't really talk about in the maybe watch, and this is the thing I'm sure no one will agree with me on. I hate the last scene. This movie should end with the two of them together and the atomic blast. That is how this movie ends. That is how this story ends. Everything after that is for the mainstream people that don't know what this movie's about, don't remember Star Wars well enough to know what.
The people that went in thinking that this was the sequel to The Force Awakens, and they're like, why'd they recast Rey?
This is there for people that just showed up because Darth Vader was in this movie, and we promised you a Darth Vader scene. I really don't like it. It really doesn't. This movie does such a good job of being a real movie, and then we put in this corporate stuff that I really don't. And Cap doesn't agree with me. We talked about this.
Yeah, and can I also say, okay, so let me say this real quick, and then we'll put a pin in it, and we'll come right back to it, and we'll have that debate. Because I was starting to come around a little bit with you as we argued about it, because I started to think that you were right on a narrative level, but I still didn't care, just for my own personal enjoyment of the film, right? And then I saw it again, and narratively, you could not be more wrong. And we'll talk about it.
Okay.
I think anyway. We'll talk about it. Any other general comments you want to make? And then I'd like to make one big general comment, and then I would like to attack you.
Okay, hold on. Well, I want to throw in my last thing about this real quick.
Absolutely.
We constantly talk about things in movies being fanboy pandering. All of that is mainstream pandering.
And it's not.
Anyways,
it's somewhat, but
more general, or a couple more general thoughts. This is the best space battle since Return of the Jedi. This space battle is amazing. We do thing with ships that's when that little ship that could pushes that Star Destroyer into that other Star Destroyer, and then they're crashing, and then there's an X-wing, and it hits the shield from Spaceballs, and it rolls. It's great.
Yeah.
I spent the entire third act in my movie theater seat with my legs like up here because that battle was just amazing. I was like freaking out. I felt like a little kid, like holding my legs up to my chest. Ugh.
The Star Destroyer shot.
With general thoughts.
When that Star Destroyer comes out of light speed, they all start crashing into it.
Yeah!
Oh my god!
When they go to jump and the other ship comes in, it's so good.
And it's great because I don't think that's intended to be amusing, and there's plenty of great levity in this movie. This is my new favorite Star Wars droid, by the way. Let me just mention that. But
what's his name?
Well, I'll tell you, Eric. His name is K2SO. But anyway, this is the most useful pot box.
Oh, yeah, I guess we should throw out that criticism, too.
I was going to...
Everybody's names.
Is that when you walk out of Force Awakens, you know everybody's names. When you walk out of this, you got to buy a pop figure. But
they hand you one at the door.
I was going to pull up Wikipedia, and then we were talking about this guy and this pop figure before the video, and I went, oh, well, this is just this handy cheat sheet right here. Anyway, what were we talking about? Well, when the ship... When that Star Destroyer goes to or comes out of light speed and that ship hits that other ship, I turn over to Eric and I'm just like, that has to happen all the time.
Yeah.
And I thought that was one of the best things in this movie is just the realism in Star Wars in this movie, you guys. It's like, yeah, if we are light speeding it, there should be like traffic lights and signs and stuff. Anyway.
Especially when this wasn't a planned battle for either side. Like,
Yeah.
it's not like the rebels had any time to figure out how they were going to get there. They were just like,
This was not the Revolutionary War. They weren't beaming in lines, taking shots at each other one by one.
It's a really good point. Yeah, it's not like big naval battles.
oh, did they freeze?
I'm force choking.
Oh, there we go.
I just used
We
the
lost
force,
you
that
guys
was
for
it.
Rasco is always. I'm sorry, it's Darth Rasco. Apparently, you're a Darth. Do something about it. How are you both Darths?
Well, rule 2.
Oh, that's
one to have the power and one to crave it.
Oh,
Coming for you, Eric. I'm gonna kill you in your sleep.
Oh no! Did you know? And we know he is a genuine Darth. Darth Rasco, because as he said that, he did one of these.
Yeah.
And he did the Vader, like, yeah.
Don't tell people stories about me as if I'm really ancient, but then I'm just like your master. That's confusing.
What nobody knows about Eric is that whenever you see him on screen, he's actually a hologram, but in real life, he's like 11 billion feet tall. and anyway, it's the opposite of Snoke.
The hologram is built for this chair.
The one that is a big chair. That's why we have this chair. Anyway,
We thought the hologram projection would be bigger because he's so big, and
right. Yeah, exactly.
Otherwise, it wouldn't fit on screen.
Mm-hmm. The same thing with Neil Patrick Harris and Dr. Horrible. Anyway, so the one big broad sweeping thing I wanted to say is I love the simplicity of this movie, and I love how tightly woven the narrative is. I love that we emphasize the wars in Star Wars, that we get a real wars movie. You said it's also got some samurai.
I got samurai movie off this all over the place, and I kept getting stuff where I'm like, they're telling me that I'm right. There's a tentacle monster. That's Japanese. They're telling me I'm right. And then when we get to the final battle, Chirrut Imwe has
well done.
I'm looking at it. I
gotta move this cheat sheet so you can't see.
Chirrut Imwe has a bow. And I'm like, of course, this is the final battle of a samurai film, and everyone would have bows.
I totally agree.
Cool. Okay. So someone knows what I'm talking about.
I just haven't seen those kinds of films.
And I got it from scene 1. Like the moment the Imperial guy comes on and they're chasing the family, I'm like, oh, he's a noble who's been disgraced, and they're pulling him back to work for the Emperor. And I'm like, okay, I know exactly what this movie is, and I felt that way through the entire movie. I got samurai movie out this real hard.
I did not have the problem of. I'm sorry, someone said something about that.
Oh no, I just agree with what Eric said.
I agree. I just wanted to say that while you guys couldn't remember, I couldn't remember hardly any of the names of the characters, but I remember Krennic's name because he's my favorite character from the movie.
Krennic.
Sure, and that's a good.
That's a Darth name. Darth Krennic.
Darth Krennic. Yeah, that's pretty good.
I love Ben Mendelsohn too. Yeah.
I really, you know, you guys were talking about Spielberg. I have to assume he went back to Kurosawa to make this movie, which makes sense because Lucas went back to Kurosawa when he was making Star Wars. I see a lot of Kurosawa here.
Overall, to me, this feels like a movie that begins with an idea and then creates interesting characters with real motivations that want something, and some of them learn and grow throughout the film. And the fan service stuff comes second. The references come second. And now that I've seen this, I hate to say, I kind of feel like Force Awakens did it backwards. And as much as I still like that movie, it hurt it this much for me. And I try not to let movies affect other, especially largely unrelated movies like that. But the problem is, I didn't know how smart a Star Wars movie could be, and then I saw this, and I feel like at least a modern one. And so I'm we talked about this on the how we felt about, but I'm a little concerned that because the stakes aren't as high for the studio, these can push these kinds of envelopes and take these kinds of risks. And by the way, I love in a risk-taking movie, I love the title of this movie as the first one. You know, that it's a rogue Star Wars movie. It's going to go its own way. I also like that that it being the first of these that it has one in the title, and it's the rogue one. That's really cool. But anyway, I'm a little bit worried that the episodes are going to end up being more watered down for the masses, and that these are where the real juicy, meaty stories can be told. And I hope that's not the case. But regardless, if these are this meaty, it means that every other year we have these to look forward to. Mm-hmm. And if every episode movie is as at least entertaining as that last one was, oh boy, I'm in for a treat.
I don't know where you guys are coming from when you say watered down. I still don't think this movie is nearly as good as Force Awakens.
I think you're a crazy person. You have no standards. It's fine.
No, don't say
Force
that.
Awakens is just. I like Force Awakens fine. It is the same story with the same beats. It's fan service over. Well, it's mainstream service. It's not fan service. It's mainstream.
It's not. But it's not. That is a movie that takes the same plot, puts in new characters so the themes are different. It's a movie about religion. It is a movie about the difference between ages. It is a very smart movie. It is very well made. I like it more than this. It's not as well made as this movie, but I still think that the stuff it's harkening back to, and honestly, at the end of the day, The Force Awakens makes me feel more, and Rogue One, I don't really feel a whole lot until the last 45 minutes. Am I still here?
No, you're good.
Yeah.
Okay. When it comes down to it, we talk about these characters, and these are characters that it's kind of like when I took Kelly Sue's class, she had said that character arcs are overrated. Ripley from Alien is not a great character because she has some great character arcs. She's a good character because of the action she takes and how that informs the character. That's what makes Ellen Ripley a good character. And they're going for that same idea here. The thing is, these characters don't have really anything, most of them don't have anything to do to the last 45 minutes. Then I like those characters. But before that, I don't know what the big gunner guy's name is. I like his relationship with Donnie Yen, but until the last 45 minutes, I don't feel like it's explored.
Okay, but the difference between, say, Ripley and Rey is that Ripley goes through things and has struggles, and Rey.
Well, I'm not trying to. I'm not
successfully goes through everything. Yeah, but this is a war movie. This is not a. It's not a.
Yeah, and this isn't the place to get too deep back into Force Awakens.
Yeah.
Connor, because Connor said he doesn't understand where we're coming from. So let me throw you an example, Connor. First of all, I think you're right. I think Eric and a lot of people that feel the same way he does about Force. I'm somewhere in the middle between you guys.
You're slowly coming.
I think side. No, not really. But
I am like I would put myself leaning towards Eric, but not quite.
Oh, we have the Eric side and the Connor side of the Force.
Yeah.
Join me, and together we can love The Force Awakens.
I think Eric goes too far when he says that Force Awakens is too much that exact same story. It goes too far by the end for me, and I never ever liked Starkiller. And we'll talk about the big problem with Starkiller.
Starkiller is amazing. Starkiller is great. It is the extension of the Death Star that the second Death Star wasn't in Return of the Jedi.
I'll argue with you about that a little bit later, but sure. and again, not to get too far into that, but there is a thing we couldn't talk about on how we felt about that. This movie really screws up with Starkiller, I think. But anyway, so
with Starkiller, at
least specifically, yeah. But here's the thing, Connor, you're absolutely right thematically, and there's a lot of really interesting things going on there. And I'm holding out reservation. I'm reserving judgment for certain things because it's the first act of the story. And it's not done yet. So there's a lot of stuff I can't even call yet, but. That too much of at least the initial genesis of getting things going in that movie, I think, are hinging too much on contrivances, and this movie avoids that for the most part. So
no, no, the contrivances in this movie go crazy.
Well, go ahead, get us started on it then.
Okay, so I know that what's his face, Mads Mikkelsen, just thinks that Saw Gerrera and Felicity Jones, Jin. He thinks that they're probably still hanging out together, but he never really knew that they actually did get a hold of her. We also just so happens that Jin has been sprung a trap at the same time that the plan has been set. But the thing is, these characters aren't Jedi, so you can't really use the sense of the Force to give contrivances.
He puts her in a hole, and the other guy finds her. He clearly knew that guy was coming.
He didn't put her in a hole. She went to the hole and just assumed that she had went into the hole and that he found her. Okay, fine.
No, they built a plan to hide.
That was a plan.
Okay, fine. But the thing is, she knew that she would be raised by him. Yeah, but he's just assuming that she is still with him. Okay, I'll give you that much. But then she gets capped by the Rebel Alliance to just so happen to go to Saw Gerrera, which he had just so happened to have a
No,
message.
they get her because she has a relationship with him, and
But
he
that's
got
not,
a message.
but that's not related to. But that's not related to the content of the message. How do they know that the content of the message just so happened to directly talk to
Because
her?
someone in the Empire beamed a message to someone working for the rebellion.
But they don't know
That
the
raises
message.
a red
They
flag.
don't know the message, though. They don't know the message.
It
They
doesn't
even
matter what the
ask
message
her,
is. Someone in the Empire beams a message to someone in the rebellion.
That's immediately a big deal.
Yeah, that's important. It would be like someone in the Nazis sending a message to someone in America
because
in
it's
World War
likely
II.
a defector or a mole.
And it means either he's turning to their side or there is someone on the other side that's giving information.
Yeah.
Okay,
It's a huge deal. It's not a contrivance.
I get that. What I'm saying is the contents of the message just so happen to reference her and give her all that she needs to know, right as she just so happens to come into contact with it, and right before they decide they want to blow up the Holy City. Okay. Also,
the Holy City thing falling in line with exactly when they get there, I'll give you that,
Yeah, okay.
except that they also knew that a message was sent to him. Tarkin talks about it. So they're on their way there at the same time the rebels are trying to get there too.
But the thing
That's
is,
not a contrivance.
That same
There's
situation is
reasons
much
that
better
this
handled.
happens.
But no, the same situation is better handled in the second act when they go to Edu. That's fine. The way all the information kind of comes to a head and the way it slowly builds up to that big explosion that happens on the landing platform. That's fine. On Jeddah, it's a lot of people just not really knowing what's going on, and then it just so happens to all file online at the perfect spot. And she also mentions how she's okay. This isn't really a contrivance. This is just a character issue where she's like, "Oh yeah, you know, I don't mind the Imperial flag as long as I keep my head down." Okay, this is a character who's like, "Hey, if I've managed to live this long, then everyone else should." And then so that's where she's coming from, but. She was captured by the Empire in the very first scene. She was a prisoner of the Empire. So why is she not more against the Empire? She's just kind of doing it, so it kind of becomes a destiny thing. And
because criminals get captured and get away all the time in Star Wars.
But I mean, you don't think
you're spending your life dodging the Empire.
But
like that's what Boba Fett does.
Though.
That's what Han does, and Han has the exact same character in A New Hope. Where he's not really taking sides, he's just kind of living his life. He's not really part of the rebellion, but he's also not for the Empire.
Yeah, and the idea is
Han Solo wasn't a prisoner of the Empire.
But he could have been. He's a smuggler. He's constantly dodging the Imperial.
Sure, and it's not because she's a rebel. It's because she's doing illegal things and she's lost and she's trying to find her way. The idea I got from her, her whole worldview before she has her opportunity for change and becomes a full-blown rebel, is she blames the rebellion for her childhood. That if they just, as Connor said, kept their heads down, they wouldn't have had to go through all this. So she doesn't blame the Empire. She doesn't like the Empire, but she thinks it's a world she can live in. If only they just wouldn't poke the bear, then this stuff wouldn't have happened. So from her perspective, the rebellion is worse for her personally than the Empire, and all she's thinking about is her.
But she still wouldn't like the Empire because the Empire is bad, and she spent her entire childhood being informed that the Empire was bad. It would be like if
but of course, what she doesn't have is hope.
Well,
and she doesn't think there's anything she can do about it, and then she finds a glimmer of it, and then she takes that later.
It would be like if you were raised in a household that was very one way or the other politically.
Yeah.
You got tired of your parents talking about that.
Yeah.
But that can't help but inform how you view the rest of the world. That's still part of you. You're still also not going to like the other side of that political argument as well. That's not a character flaw. That makes sense. Well, it's not a character problem, I think.
A lot of the stuff in the first act, though, I think that her history with this is I wanted her to she should be more angry. I think because of the stuff that she's had.
She's complacent. That's the whole point. She's complacent.
Yeah.
Yeah, but she can.
She's accepted her fate in the or her role in the galaxy.
And she becomes
doesn't go
angry
with
when
me.
she finds out what's happened to her father. I mean, I think
What
it's
happened to her
important for her
mother?
to
What
know
happened to her mother?
just how dedicated her father really was.
She was executed. I assume.
By the Empire.
So,
Right?
should we move on from this? Because I feel like we're just kind of talking in circles at
I
this
agree.
moment.
Yeah.
Oh, I
And
didn't
people
think
in
we
the
were
chat are
circular-
getting a little annoyed that we're just arguing about one thing. So, I think
I
we
think we're a
should.
circulatory territory. Yeah, I also think that who that character is and what her motivations are is important.
And it's kind of central to the movie.
Yeah, no, I do not think that was unproductive.
Well, and
It was heated, but not unproductive.
Well, and it
certainly.
comes back to the near the end that Cassian gives about, or the conversation that he and Jin have about working for a political ideology, and does that mean you have to agree with everything? As she calls him a stormtrooper. Like, if you're doing what you're told to do for the rebellion without thinking, then you're just a stormtrooper. That informs us how she's seeing these two sides, and then how she's changing. Yeah, where that transition happens. Yeah. Anyway, but yeah, let's go ahead and move on. So, I want to fight Eric now. Eric got to fight. Connor got to fight Eric. I want to fight Eric. So, so Eric doesn't like the end. He thinks it's pandery. I agree. I agree with myself. I'm right.
Here's the deal, Eric. You have to see where the plans go for the sake of the story that's being told. Forget what you know.
Okay.
Forget that you know how 4 starts.
Okay.
This is a story, and it has a beginning and a middle and an end. And if it and regardless of the fact that the 2 people we see die in the explosion that you want to be the end of the movie are our central protagonists, minus some other folks that but they're basically the central protagonists. Despite the fact that that's where they die, that is not where the story ends. Yes, it is their story, but remember, first of all, we also begin with a prologue. So you got a prologue, and you also got an epilogue. Just because we start with her doesn't mean that that's where the story begins. It's still a prologue. It's her as a kid. It's a flashback that we didn't put later. It's a prologue. Okay, so by the logic, and I'm somewhat basing this on an argument we had the other day, so you guys aren't caught up on this argument, but by the logic you gave me the other day, that, well, it's their story, so you have to end there, but we began before it, and you're not complaining about that. So that's the first thing.
We began with her.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's about POV. It's about the story. This is also a movie where we go to the villain's POV too. So by your logic, we should never ever do that.
No, because it's different. It's different in film than it is in narrative. It is still her story.
Yeah, sure.
And even though that opening scene is not necessarily from her point of view, she's there, she's present.
If you want to say
it starts with her,
but you're missing the point.
Okay.
It's still, the story still begins before the story begins, because the occasion for story, you see what I'm saying? So, but you need that scene. It's important. You also need the last scene, because forgetting what you know, forgetting for the sake of this story, they could have died in vain. We need to know that didn't happen. That's so important. The plans get sent up. We have to see what happens to the plans.
The reason I disagree is because in many movies like this, you do not. You end on a moment of ambiguity.
But it's a movie about hope. Those movies probably are not throwing the word hope around all the time.
You're probably right.
You need that. I mean, because that's the thematic ending, and it also makes sense.
But this exists in a universe where 4 exists, and we know that the message got through. That's why it's not needed in this movie.
But I still think that the movie feels unfinished if you don't have that. And furthermore, it would be hilarious to have that explosion and then you can't.
I would have been so cool with that either.
No, you don't have to end with that. But at the very least, you got to change that last song. You can't do that. Here's the other thing, though.
What if you did it like slow and sad, like
that would be unintentionally hilarious.
I don't think the explosion going into the song, into the fanfare, would have been bad. In fact, I'd actually agree that it would probably be a better ending if it ended the way Eric's saying it did, because it is so much about the characters at the end. But it does go on for longer, and I'm cool with it because I love that Darth Vader scene. It's really cool.
Yeah, my favorite thing about this movie is what we add to the mythology, but also to a little bit of like informing characters and what they do in 4. I really, really like this is part of where I get, and I didn't pick up on this until the second viewing.
Mm-hmm.
And Eric, to be fair, I've got him at a disadvantage because Eric didn't get a chance to go a second time. But here's the thing. It turns out that part of the reason that Vader is so angry at the beginning of 4 and we got to get the plans is because this is a personal failure on his part. He was right there and nearly had the plans and they got out of his grasp. I love that. And it's not fair to call it straight up pandering when they add that to his character.
Also, I'll say this. I love how that hallway scene is kind of a smaller scale version of what just happened on a larger scale, and it's the domino effect of hope. They were trapped on this planet and they beamed the plans up. They beamed the literal, like the object of hope in the form of the plans. They beamed it up, and then the same thing happens where this guy can't get through the door, but he's like, take this, and he throws it or he gets it to the next guy, then that guy runs, then they close the door and they go on. And I just really like how that's like a smaller scale version.
And I love that it starts out with them specifically asking to like save us, like help us, but then when he realizes that there isn't any hope for them and Darth Vader is 10 steps behind him and he's about to get a lightsaber to the back, he's just like, okay, this is more important, like with my last moment, I'm sending this through, which was totally exactly what the whole movie was
it makes
about.
it is so the story is as much about the rebellion as it is about our characters. They have been inspired by these people because they weren't even gonna go there. One of the best things about this movie is that the rebels rebel against the rebellion in order to do the thing they do, and then they win the rebellion over and they show up, and now it's the mission it should have been in the first place.
Okay, I will give you that there may be some points for why it could be there.
Yeah.
I still think it is there for the mainstream people. I don't think you don't sit down and write this movie and put that ending there. I don't think you do.
I don't agree with you. You do if in the writing room you start with, we want this to be connective tissue and go straight in.
But I want it to be. I want it to be a standalone film.
Well, I would say that it's pretty obvious. I don't know if we've really talked about the reshoots at all, but from the trailers, they definitely had Jyn running with the plans on the beach at one point. She's holding the hard drive. And I think that at some point Disney sort of decided, hey, you know what? We can make this darker. They got the go ahead and they reshot the ending. So we don't know that Darth Vader scene was in the end. I imagine that it still is, but that it still was. But it's hard to tell what they were originally planning, because it is obvious that the ending is, I think, where most of the reshoots took place. And I think it benefited for it. I think this ending was great. But to me, it's really obvious that the ending is drastically different than the original script, just because of some of the shots that we got.
So here's one thing I'll say. Those shots are in the first teaser. Force Awakens had a bunch of fake shots that were not in the movie that were specifically created for the teaser.
That's true. I
think that Rogue One having massive reshoots that shook up the production of this, I think that's the biggest fake movie news story of the year. The only reason we made a big deal about the reshoots was because Suicide Squad happened. And that was not just with Rogue One. You can find multiple other movies where reshoots. Oh my God, reshoots! Make a big deal out of reshoots. I think that was completely.
That needs to stop being a story. We're gonna have to, in this day and age of instant information, we've got to be more careful about what we report. There's no reason we needed to know about that.
Yeah,
guys, did you guys know that the Avengers Infinity War is gonna have reshoots? Just like all the other Marvel movies?
Yeah. The only reason we're talking about it is because DC did lie when they say that the reshoots were just to add more action to Suicide Squad because they were really happy with the product. That was a lie. Now, because of that, everything else...
We watched it again yesterday. I agree with you.
Yeah, we just watched the extended cut yesterday.
So bad.
And it's like Gareth Edwards specifically said that, no, these reshoots were as normal as any other movie's reshoots ever. But people now we've been burned by Suicide Squad. So like, I just feel like forever, that is going to be the easiest thing to get people to read an article is to type, oh my God, reshoots? What does this mean? ? Like that's going to be everywhere for years to come.
Rasco, you should use that voice all the time.
That is Rasco's people jump too quick at news voice. I have a really specific voice for everything, for all of Rasco's crazy voices, and we got to all remember that one. That's a good one. I need to put these on note cards and just play. Rasco, would you give me this voice? Would you give me angry because they changed the Hershey candy bar wrappers in the late '90s voice? Could you give me that voice? Anyway, so I want to go back to something we were talking about a second ago because Red Letter Antilles asked me a question, and I want you guys to help me out because I might be remembering something incorrectly. He says that I'm wrong when I say that the rebels like convinced more of the rebellion to come with them, that those ships left already. I thought some of those ships left, but I thought there was like a communicate on Mothma or something, and they sent more or something. Am I remembering this incorrectly?
What happened
yeah,
was,
go ahead, Connor.
Admiral Radigan or Admiral Akbar, Proto Admiral Akbar.
Admiral Akbar.
Yeah, he was already going to go and fight regardless, and what happens is what happens is like, oh, he's already going. I guess we should fight because we hear that there's a battle going on at Scarif. Oh my God, there's rebels over there. Crap. Oh, Admiral Radigan or whatever his name is, he's already over there. Hey, let's go. Let's do it. And so they all get inspired by their actions as they're happening to go out and do it.
Yeah. I really wanted to talk about the ending battle as kind of on a metaphorical level. It is the purification of the rebellion. In many ways, it's like the rebellion doing this final selfless act, because Cassian has that speech where he's like, we're assassins and spies and all these people, and we've done bad things in the name of the rebellion. And if you don't use this opportunity to take this opportunity and use it and just make this selfless act, or take selfless action, then everything you've done prior really was in vain. If you at this moment don't do the just completely honorable thing of sacrificing your own life. And also I love how it's literally like the gates of hell. Like they have to go into the gates of hell with the force field around the planet. It opens up, they go down, they're trapped down there and they can't get out, but they have to beam up hope after the force field destroyed, they have to beam hope back up to the rebellion. I think that's really cool. And I think that's all intentional.
Yeah, the rebellion doesn't win at the end of the original trilogy, obviously, without this. Not just because of the Death Star plans, but because the rebellion's attitude has to change. I love how much this movie is about moral ambiguity and how easy it would be for us to lose our perspective and become something that could eventually just become another empire again. If these people somehow or rather, before all this happens, got lucky enough to defeat the Empire, they just would wind right back up in another one.
Which is kind of where it ends up in Force Awakens.
Yeah,
is that they become too bureaucratic and another empire rises up.
They got kind of complacent. These people are complacent in their hopelessness. And I don't know. I think that is really, really well handled.
Yeah. There's the first two acts are about moral ambiguity, and then the final act is about redemption. And I think when you go into that ending that you guys are debating, which I'm now getting pulled more towards Cap's side about that ending, I would have been cool if they ended it with the explosion, but it does go on and it does validate its ending. And I think showing like them having to pass on the hope and like the redemption of the Rebel Alliance, because you have to remember the Rebels really started off as like the separatist movement. They were the bad guys in the first place, and then when the Republic turned into the Empire, then it was like this weird transition move where like Bail Organa and more people from the Republic, like, I'm not going to be a part of this Empire, I'm going to be part of this Rebel Alliance now, which was formerly the Separatists, and then now this is how it redeems itself from going from like Separatists. This is the gray area moving into the good guys that are the Rebel Alliance in the original trilogy.
I want to talk about real quick, and I brought this up in the how we felt about, but again couldn't straight up talk about it. And this may be an obvious thing at this point to say since we've all seen this, but we haven't talked very much about the Death Star plan idea and just the central concept of what this movie is in the first place. The idea of making that of making the weakness of the Death Star an intentional thing, I think is a stroke of genius, and is the thing that makes this movie feel not only not superfluous but absolutely necessary. Would never have thought that a movie made 30-something years later could make Episode 4 better.
Yeah, it does. But it makes Episode 7
35
weaker.
years later. Yeah, but it makes Episode 7 weaker, and I'm going to let Eric tell you why. Go ahead.
Okay. So with the first Death Star, there's a really easy way to blow it up. And we've now learned that is intentional. With the second Death Star, there is no easy way to blow it up. They have to fly into the middle of it and literally blow it up. With Skywalker Base, we get a stupid line about, well, there's always a way to blow one of these things up.
You mean Star Killer?
Yeah, in Star Killer Base, they're like, well, there's always a way to blow one of these things up, and there's just a way to blow it up.
Which didn't totally bother me initially.
Is there a Rogue 2 that happens right before Force Awakens, where there was also a weakness planted
But
on
the easy way... The easy way to blow it up, isn't it like actually a reactor? It's not like this little tube that like nobody's noticing. It's like actually
on the surface. They're just like, well, if we keep shooting it, it'll blow up.
But they end up not being the case. That isn't what they do. They don't just keep shooting it. It blows up. Look, he goes inside. He goes inside of it, and then is able to get it after they're able to get it. I don't know. I think that's a lot harder than just like one little. Yes, I agree with you, but it's not exactly the same thing. I will say that I agree with you overall, but it's not exactly the same thing. And we're gonna get a million people in the comments being like, "Brah, brah, 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 brah." No, it's not the same thing.
Poe Dameron. Just mock commenters low.
Whatever. Everybody hates me already. I don't care.
Look, we can all be friends. We can disagree and still be friends. It's totally cool. Here's the thing. Lo is. It sounds like Lo's right. I gotta go back and look at that again. I didn't realize that. But you can't 2 years in a row have a movie where we're flippant about how easy that was and making it just a fun action movie, romp kind of thing. Look, don't question it too much. You know what kind of thing you're watching, and then suddenly you make something in Star Wars this much smarter. How did these movies being made?
How did they get made simultaneously?
Proximity. How did the people making that movie not read the script for this? That's my question.
And it's like, oh, you're making an entire movie about how it's not just a stupid adventure movie thing, that there's a weakness. Oh, maybe we should cut this line about how we're just a stupid adventure movie and it has a weakness.
I don't know. I think you might be ragging on that thing at the end too much. It's Poe Dameron makes it look easy. We can't all help it, but. I think that the stuff that's really going on at the end is not really concerned about Star Killer, just kind of more added stuff. I don't. Yeah, okay. Now that there's not really a reason for it to be so easy to blow up, I don't know.
It's not a problem until you have this. It's just they made something people always used to make fun of totally work, and
we just reused that thing last year, and I was like, we've always made fun of this. But, it's
at the very
Star Wars,
least, it makes it feel like we don't have our ducks in a row. I don't feel like we would have done that.
It seems like they're not communicating.
And Marvel has that problem sometimes.
Yes, they do.
I wanna maybe throw something out there. Maybe I'm wrong, but Star Killer Base was operational and that it could blow up planets, but was it entirely finished? Because I don't think it was entirely finished when they were blowing stuff up.
I think it is.
I mean,
they make a big display to the entire galaxy. This is our weapon of power.
I don't think that you would
operational, but I don't know.
Yeah, you wouldn't destroy.
You do not sound a rallying cry like that if you are not ready for people to come at you.
And I don't know. I can't help but feel like that's playing into the movie's themes about the arrogance of youth in terms of the First Order. So I don't know. I felt like that it wasn't entirely finished when they blew it up. I could be wrong.
Connor, you just gave me this great mental picture of this thing that, for whatever reason, you build the front half and you're able to shoot a beam, but the back half is like totally
exactly what I was thinking.
There's nothing there. I just want him to shoot it from the back. It's not done. Anyway. Okay, so we've got lots of other things we can cover
for Red Letter Antilles.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Your skills are needed, sir.
We need them.
Okay, so there's a big Imperial ship that Krennic, the bad guy Krennic. The bad guy Krennic flies in this big ship that looks similar to Darth Vader's shuttle from Return of the Jedi and the ship that they used to get to Yavin or Endor. Sorry, the Force Moon of Endor. But it's not the same, right? Like, this is a new ship that we've never seen before. Because a small criticism I have is that we have stormtroopers we've never seen before. Where are these Death Troopers? Why aren't they on the Death Star?
Yeah, I got a headcanon validation for that. those sweet like tie kites that they have.
You
Or
can
the-
complain about the TIE guide too.
I don't like the
my
TIE guides
Star
either.
Wars. I've consulted my Star Wars expert, my husband,
my,
aka
my-
Mr. Corellian, and it's a different ship. Just so you know.
Okay, yeah. Why do we have these different things in the Empire? If it's the Rebellion, that's fine. They're throwing together whatever they can get.
What?
my headcanon validation for this is that all of the Death Troopers were on Scarif and they blew them all up.
I
All
think
of
that
them-
they've
Okay, then
said
where are they
that
on
those
the
are
second
critics
Death Star? Or in Empire? Like, why don't we have more Death Troopers?
because
because
they're
those
all
are specifically Krennic's Death Troopers. I think is like
Okay,
I think they.
But why
when
does he get Death Troopers? Why doesn't Darth Vader get Death? Even Darth Vader doesn't have specific stormtroopers.
because the Death Troopers suck at shooting stuff even worse than the Stormtroopers. That's why.
They kill the entire cast.
No, they
Red Lord
don't.
Antilles
I mean, it takes
answers you with
enough
this.
of them.
Red Lord Antilles also says, Eric, yes, it is a new ship. It's personal to him and should not fit in the hangar, by the way. Somebody
I just wanted to check and make sure that I'm not, because I'm not a ship guy. I'm not like, but that seemed weird to me that the Imperials, who have a very standard, like they're a military. These are standard issue ships. Why would someone? I mean, Darth Vader gets his own TIE fighter, I guess, but
Yeah.
he's Darth Vader.
This whole movie, I kept wanting to ask Krennic if he felt in charge.
Oh my god, okay. I have been making Krennic Daggett jokes for
Daggett
so
Joe,
long.
I can't stop. I can't quit doing it. It's fit. Do you feel it? When he's there with Vader, I made a video
here.
back at just after and I don't think it's up anymore because of copyright stuff, but just after Dark Knight Rises came out, I did a video comparing Darth Vader and Bane, and now Daggett is Darth Vader's henchman, and I just think that's the best thing ever. It's like, he's wonderful in this, by the way.
He's great. He's really
Ben
and
Mendelsohn.
something you were saying, and the thing you were talking about with Death Troopers and stuff, may I just mention that I really love the Beach Troopers. I think they look really cool.
Yeah, they are really cool.
And it makes a lot of sense that we have those and never saw them again because we've never been on
to
a beach planet.
That's fun.
And I love the beach planet. And I also like that the beach planet is like really sunny, and that's where the hope ends up coming from. And like it looks like a happy day. And it also kind of like, you know, reminds you of things like you know, Normandy and stuff.
Well, and it parallels nicely with Empire, which is the darkest of the original three, starting on a snow planet.
Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Krennic, he's played by Ben Mendelsohn. Ben Mendelsohn is one of my favorite actors now. He's so great. He knows how to go, like, he's like a master of hammy overacting because he knows just how over the top to go and skirt that line, but he never goes too over the top where it takes you out. Like, everything from the beginning to where he's shouting, it's so amazing. He's like my favorite character because it's like he's so evil, but the real evil is the bureaucratic nature of the people trying to take the Death Star from him, and he's just throwing a big hissy fit the whole time. I love Krennic. He's great. And then there's a shot from the final act that's in the previews that I really wish was in the movie. Like, every single shot is practically beautiful. Like, practically every shot is amazing. But there's the shot where he's walking through the water with the corpses of the Stormtrooper in the water, and he's got like his cape floating in the water, and it's so beautiful. Oh man, Ben Mendelsohn owns every second of frame he's on. I love it. I love him so much.
I agree.
there were things in the trailers.
Thank you, Rasco, for your
Appreciate that
for your
input.
inspiring addition to this conversation.
Anybody else glad of some of the stuff that we saw in the trailers that wasn't in this movie?
I'm a rebel. I rebel. I was really glad that wasn't in there.
Yes, my two least favorite lines, because I'm a rebel, or you're rebels, or whatever it is.
This is the rebellion, isn't it?
Yeah.
I rebel.
You rebel.
I
You
rebel. No, it's
Yes.
I rebel.
Whatever.
This is
It's I
rebellion,
rebel.
isn't it? I rebel. That's one of the biggest things I go in this movie. I'm like, I hate that line. It's a bad line. It's a bad delivery. Not there. The what will you become? Also, not in this movie. I like that he seemed like he had like a jury-rigged Darth Vader thing.
Uh-huh.
Like it is not as advanced because he's not part of the Empire, but it's got the same breathing, and he has
And
to put it up
also-
to his mouth. And,
Yeah, and also metaphorically because he's not evil.
That is
Yeah, that's
actually
a-
the only fan servicey thing that really bothered me in this movie when he first brings it up to his mouth, and the sound effect, I swear, is the exact same sound effect. It's like, and I was like,
well, that's why I like it because
Yeah.
Let's not. I didn't like it. Ugh.
But I like it because he has a like makeshift version of that same thing.
I'm okay with it being the same, but with the exact same noise when Darth Vader has
Yeah,
an entire
it would
mask,
go-
it's like a doctor thing.
Find anywhere in real life where a breathing apparatus does not sound the same as every other breathing apparatus. Firemen, they all sound the same. Scuba divers, it all
Yeah.
sounds the same. In real
Yeah,
life, it's
But
like
here's the
that.
thing,
I don't
That's
know.
just how breathing
Here's the
Did not
sounds.
thing,
think
though.
this argument was
Okay,
gonna
okay,
be
all
on
right.
the show.
Probably my biggest
Yo,
issue
Rasco
with
and I
this
are always on
movie.
the same side. That's
Yeah.
why I like Rasco.
Seems like it. You guys are like the board. You gotta collect the passes
Assimilate.
going on here.
My biggest issue with this movie is the wasted opportunity that is Saw Gerrera. I've never watched the Clone Wars. I don't know who this guy is. I haven't read any
I
of
didn't
the.
either. And
Oh,
he didn't
yeah.
even know that he was from the
No,
Clone Wars.
I didn't remember from
The
the
thing
Clone
is-
Wars. They
the
make
thing
this
is-
big deal about how he's an extremist and he's
Yeah,
gone
no.
too.
That's where I'm going. That's where I'm going because we're told he's an extremist. He's like the rebel version of Darth Vader. He even says, "I'm more machine. There's not much left of me. There's not much left of me. He's more machine than man." We get all this stuff. He even has to like pull up that thing up to his face, and it sounds like Darth Vader. And I was thinking, "Oh, this is for a reason. He's like the rebel version of Darth." No, he's just paranoid. And then when we see his stuff, like his troopers go over to the holy city, and they're like leading a strike against the Empire. It's just like what any other rebel faction would do. What makes this extremist?
Yeah, he doesn't seem extreme enough.
Him sending out a tentacle monster. How come we don't actually see him doing stuff like torturing a dude that we don't see any of the other rebels?
We were just talking about before we started recording. Instead of the tentacle monster, it should have been
Like a probe droid. or
the
something.
interrogation droid from A New Hope. Have
Yeah.
like a stolen Imperial interrogation droid that he's using on that guy or something like that.
Yeah,
So
Connor,
he feels more extreme.
Connor raises a great point. Because what the real problem is here is not exactly what we see him do, but that we're not comparing it to other things that the rebels have done that when we know they have also morally compromised themselves to get the job done. Because we talk about that, and this is all about that gray area. And I don't know how far, I don't know why his going that far is all that much farther than what Mon Mothma's people have done.
Can I just say,
Yeah,
I just
think,
need something specific.
No, you be quiet, Rasco!
I think that the point, I think that
it can't be done.
that first
He's
scene where
adapted.
that
Sorry,
scene
go
where the
ahead.
stormtroopers are going through the holy city, and I think that part of what they mean when like he's too much of a radical is that his men initiate that fight in the middle of civilian territory. There are just
Oh,
innocent
good point.
bystanders everywhere, and they play that very much like an occupying force type scene in any movie. Like Billy Lynn's Long Halftime Walk has scenes like that. That movie came out recently. Like they initiated that conflict in the middle of a city, and you even see Jin have to save that little girl. That's not how you go about. That's how a coward fights.
Oh,
Is you
that's a
surround
really
yourself
good
with.
I could
innocents.
not handle that scene with the little girl crying.
She reminded me of the girl from Pacific Rim. Did anyone else have that?
There was something that was reminding me of, but I don't think it was
but
that.
Pacific Rim, I was okay with for whatever reason. I think
was a giant
because
monster.
because it was a monster. I think that is honestly the issue is that it was people fighting and there was a child, and I was like, this is too real to what's going on in our world right now that like I can't like I don't know.
I watched too much.
But that's a testament to the
I
movie,
know,
right?
Yeah.
Because
I know,
it's
fine.
it's a
but
real
it's
war
like-
movie. Yeah.
It really affected me. Like I'm not saying it was a bad thing. I just
No, it's
I
great.
it like physically affected me when she started like crying and she's in the middle of the street and there's bombs going off and stuff. My chest got tight.
Yeah.
I watched too much anime to be affected by that. Little girls with teddy bears in the middle of crowds that are about to be ruined. That's just a thing in anime.
And
think
I
maybe
hardly
we-
watch anime.
Until he says the difference is that Mothma and her people do bad things and know that they're bad. They feel sacrifice and they do it as a last resort. Saw's men don't care what happens. Honestly, could have brought that more to the forefront, and I didn't. I mean, like I don't want to rewrite the movie. I didn't love that he had to be taken out as early as he did, and he kind of ends up being there more for a thematic reason than anything, and then they a decent, like a decent plot reason to get him in there where he has to somebody has to raise her, and that ends up informing her character a lot. So he's serviceable certainly, but I did have a hard time. Like it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate that people are having to explain this to me. It's in the movie, but I feel like I would have to watch it 4 or 5 times before I picked up on some of those things.
Yeah.
And Raska, you talking about the them attacking with civilians around? That is something I didn't pick up on. So thank you for that.
It's really interesting. If you watch that scene again, nothing would have happened, but one of Saw's guys takes a grenade and immediately throws down, and the fight breaks out.
I remember watching this movie and thinking, oh, all Cassian did to be a shade of gray characters. He just had to shoot that one guy at the beginning, and then he didn't do anything else. No, he didn't. He's the one who shot the one dude, and then that led to a reactor thing that blew up other people in that location. But you can. I think Diego Luna's bringing stuff to the performance where you can see that he's losing more of himself as he's doing more and more bad actions, and it's a really subtle thing. He's a very good actor, and then when we get to him having to kill Jin's father, he doesn't do it, and I think it's really cool. And so I think that Diego Luna is bringing stuff to Cassian's character and making him a more fleshed out character, more interesting character than I think what's on the page. So, and that's another thing with Force Awakens and this movie, the acting is incredible and it elevates character. I think that a lot of people, just general people who watch movies, complain that they don't like the acting in a lot of the Star Wars movies. I've watched them, well, barring the prequels, I've watched those movies my whole life, so the acting doesn't bug me. I don't get why people say Mark Hamill doesn't give a good performance in A New Hope because, that's just Luke Skywalker. I don't know.
That's the thing people say?
That is the thing people say.
I didn't know that.
Specifically about Mark Hamill as Luke Skywalker in
Generation.
I've never had an issue with it.
Wow.
Yeah,
I got old and missed out on.
People act like he's a lot whinier than he actually is in that movie.
Yeah, that's a thing.
People take his one but I was going to Tashi's power station, or I was going to Tashi's station to pick up the power converters, and they make it seem like he's like,
I'm Spider-Man!
Yeah, I was going to Tashi's station to pick up the power converters. He's annoyed that he had plans and they're ruined. He's not being a whiny brat.
He's not.
Anyone would have done that.
I would have done that. Come on.
Yeah.
Gwen, what about that one? I mean, that's like.
And also, importantly, he becomes more sympathetic. That's a character. I think you know what I mean. He does start off as kind of a whiny kid, and then he develops and stuff. And that's a tough balancing act where he's got to be sympathetic enough in the first place that you care, but
as opposed to starting as a tough as nails girl who can fend for herself and developing into a tough as nails girl who can fend for herself.
Oh my God, Eric!
Just you gotta knock that off right now. That's not what we're talking about. Anyway, hey, can we talk about the levity a little bit?
Yeah.
So the first 15 minutes of this movie. We talked about this on the How We Felt About. I was not into it. It took a while to suck me in, and where it finally does is when we get on the planet and we Chirrut Imwe. And Baze Malbus. We meet those guys, and then when we start getting some really funny lines from A2SO, I start enjoying the movie, and it's like all of a sudden it becomes a comedy. It's just there hasn't been a real place for levity. It had to be real serious and kind of relentless at the beginning, so that you saw what the stakes were, so that you saw how oppressive the Empire was. This is the most I've understood the Empire, I think. And I really appreciate that. So on a second viewing, I appreciated it a lot more because I knew where we were going and I knew it was going to turn into a Star Wars movie. At the beginning, it has to set the tone of the kind of movie it is. It's a lot like Winter Soldier being a spy espionage thriller, right? Like it's got to set that tone up right up front. But anyway, the funniest lines in the movie happen in the same scene. Or real close in proximity to one scene. Yeah. And seeing the second time, I was like, oh, these are like 5 minutes apart. One of them, Eric and I have the same favorite. One of them, I do not understand how everybody on the internet, how this has not become a meme yet. Surely it will. With Chirrut Imwe, and he has his he gets the bag on his head and he says, "Are you kidding me? I'm blind." That is the hardest I've laughed in a long time in a movie theater, and
we kept laughing through the next scene.
It turned my tickle box over, and I felt bad because I was still laughing through a much more dramatic sequence that I was not paying any attention. That was the thing, and the other one happens before that when the droid says when he's trying to cover himself and pretend like he's still programmed correctly and is an Imperial droid, and he's like, "We'll take them to prison to be imprisoned and I lost it. It was.
I like
it was
the part where he
wonderful.
smacks Cassian in the face. Shut up!
Yeah.
Wow. That was the best. The levity really worked for me the first time around. It didn't really. I don't know if I was in a better mood. I don't know what it was. It just wasn't quite clicking with me the second time around. Maybe I just go and watch it a third time and it'll work better for me. But the levity was a little off and on for me. So yeah, for what it is, that's my thoughts on it.
We have a couple people in the comments asking if
Yeah.
we can comment on the non-inclusion of an opening crawl.
That's just where I was
I love
about
it.
to go. Lo, thank
love
you.
it.
Yeah. Yes, folks are asking about that. So Eric, I looked this up earlier today, and it turns out that was information we had going all the way back to like.
This is how little I cared about this
Couple
movie
weeks.
before
Couple
I
weeks.
saw it.
At least a few months. Maybe. Well, no. Now that I think about it, what I saw said November, so like a month. Like
Yeah.
we
I remember I got an email. from a friend saying there's not going to be a crawl in Star Wars. In Star Wars. I'm like, oh, cool. I like that. That's a great choice. And
I wish
watching
I
it
had
in
met-
context. It works better.
I wish I had bet money on it because Eric and I were talking about it before the movie, and I was like, I don't know, and I think maybe there's a chance, and he goes, no, they'll do it, and I was like, oh, I should bet money, but I think you're right, and then he was wrong, and I was like, oh, we were wrong. So I like that they still say a long time ago. I think you should still have that.
Mhm.
I don't like that the end credits. It's still the way they always end. I don't think they should do that. If they're not going to have the opening crawl, they shouldn't have that. But yeah, the lack of opening crawl, I think is smart to separate these as different entities, and also because a lot of us know where we are here. So giving there's not enough for 3 paragraphs is the thing. Like I don't know what you put in there.
Yeah, I don't know. One thing that this movie does, kind of along the lines of that, as like not being an episode movie, that I wish was decided on and like a memo sent out across all of the divisions of like everybody working on Star Wars, in the comics, in the TV shows, all of that, is they start to say I have a bad feeling about this and stop them.
Yeah.
And it reads like this is like a message saying we're not an episode movie. We are our own thing.
There is
And
no
I-
formula.
And I kind of wish that that was like a memo. It's like only the episode movies use that line. It's
And
not going
only
to be
the
Rebels.
episodes-
It's not going to be in the comics. I kind of
Only
wish
the
that was,
episodes. Only the episodes get to use R2D2 and C3PO. I would like to have that too.
and they're in here for like 3 seconds.
Here's the thing.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. What bothers me about their inclusion is that you could have, in a more organic way, had them just be in the ending scene and like.
Yeah.
this-
Yeah.
I thought of that
And
too.
And Dan and I talked about this.
Exactly.
That it doesn't actually make sense if they're on the Rebel base because they don't know they're part of the Rebels. At the beginning of A New Hope, they actually think they're on a diplomatic ship from Alderaan. They should be on Alderaan, not the Rebel base.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we talked about. You were there when Dan and I discussed this.
I didn't immediately get your argument.
Okay.
Though. And we were talking about other things. And we moved away from it.
Yeah.
I didn't get a chance to
Okay.
noodle it. Okay, I get what you're saying. Yeah. Yes, I was there. That doesn't mean I was present.
Maybe the C3PO and R2D2, they were with Jimmy Smits. They were on Yavin 4. They were, oh crap. You guys hear me?
Yeah.
We're just listening intently. Oh, I don't know if he can hear
Well,
us.
he's frozen now.
We froze for him.
Frozen
Yeah.
carbonite.
No force choking him.
Oh, you're
All right,
back.
I'm back.
He's back. He's
You're
back. Go ahead.
abusing your powers, Rask. I will take them away.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so the thing is,
Hunter, don't choke on your own ambition, your own aspirations. Don't do that.
Aspirations.
Aspirations. Yeah, don't do that.
Um,
It's a synonym.
Yes, aspiration.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
it sounds like the word aspirate, so it's punny.
It is really good. Oh, that Darth Vader always cries.
Oh, that's good.
I
That's good.
never thought. Oh, it is a pun.
Wait, are you serious? That's why
Yeah.
so many people have a problem with that line. That's why so many people have a problem with that. Because it's funny and they don't like that Darth Vader's being funny.
No, that's
I like
wonderful.
it. I think it's great, but
No,
people don't like
it's
it.
great. I'm putting that on a T-shirt. But somebody like half an hour ago was like talking about the Vader pun, and I was like, the Vader pun, and then she's like respiration, and I'm like, "Whoa, you're so clever!" Like,
No,
the
aspiration.
movie
To
did that
aspirate.
on
Like,
purpose.
to aspirate is to choke. Like
I
when you
know.
aspirate, yeah.
But I
What
didn't
about,
think.
What if Krennic is actually a person with asthma, so he said, don't choke on your asthmaration. I think that works too. But I think C-3PO and R2-D2.
You know, Vader wouldn't say that because he clearly has asthma himself.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's a rare moment of self-deprecation on Vader's
That's a
part.
pot.
Hashtag respect his struggle, guys. Jeez.
It kind of was making some kind of a point 15 years ago.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
A long time ago.
Yeah, good.
So I think they're on the Yavin 4 base, and they go to Alderaan with Bail Organa, and then they go out, and so that's why they think they're going from Alderaan. I wish we would have seen them in the closing.
There's just
I agree.
Oh my God, are you serious? Okay.
There's just no reason that should be that, like, where they are when should be that convoluted, right? Like,
For a
I like
3-second
how-
scene.
Yeah, but like I was saying, it's just so much easier to have when the rebel guy's running to take the message to Leia. Have them in the background, but don't even have them in soft focus.
Exactly.
Have them in soft focus. Don't even like show it. That's such a more clever way to just like have them there. It makes sense, and you don't have to have that random cameo in the middle of the film. I just don't see how they didn't see that.
yeah, and they found other organic ways to work in fan service, right?
They did not find an organic way to bring in the guys from the cantina.
Ooh, yeah, I did not like that.
Yeah, they're well traveled.
They're also a day away from Tatooine.
Yeah, also they somehow
On a planet
got off
that's
the
about
planet
to be blown up.
really quickly.
Yeah, they got really lucky that they got off that planet.
They did. They had to, though. It's not like that couldn't have happened. I had this conversation with Connor last
Oh
night.
yeah, it's not
It's
like
not-
it couldn't have happened. It's
Yeah,
just
no, like, the
kind
thing
of
is,
like
if
And
people
it's
are
not
going to
like
say it's
C-3PO and
impossible
R2-D2
to
couldn't have been
draw.
on that planet either, but we don't want them there, Connor, or Brasco.
Well, it's because they're in the rebel base and they're unaware of the rebels.
Yeah, right.
No,
I know.
I agree. I don't necessarily need that in the movie at all. But I'm just saying, if people are going to say it doesn't make sense that they're alive in episode 4, it makes perfect sense. There's a perfect amount of time for them to get off that planet if they needed to in that amount of space, and we don't need that. We don't need to know that.
No,
Like, they don't need to come
if
out
you're
and
going to
tell us
put
that.
them in that place, I need to see them leaving that place before it gets blown up by the Death
Yeah,
Star.
I agree.
I'm joking. I don't actually want that scene, but I didn't want them there in the first place.
Yeah, but
that and the center of frame. Do you remember blue milk? You know how we keep making memes about blue milk? Here's your blue milk.
see, but I was okay with the blue
I
milk.
watched for it specifically the second time, and you act like they do this big giant close-up
Yeah,
on it, and it's
it's
not
just
that
there.
bad.
it's not that.
And it
cuts-
But it cuts very quickly. and
It's a quick shot. It's not like they're
Yeah,
like
I
blue milk.
I didn't even notice that.
That's the movie I saw. I don't know.
What's great is they put that
It was
in
there
there.
and everything.
What's great is they put that in there for you. Give me a second. Because this is great. They put that in there for you. You're one of the only people that would be annoyed that it was there, and so where it's like you're pandering, but they're pandering to you. You don't like that, and yet it's distracting you because you're like one of a couple thousand people that would even notice it. And then everybody else is fine and do not know why in your seat you're like struggling to maintain.
Okay.
your
So
seat, like-
that's not what that is.
Okay.
When
All right.
no, what he's
Okay.
describing is what happens when they bump into the two guys from the cantina.
Mm-hmm.
Because I audibly go,
That is a problem. Yeah, and I just looked
and
over and I
Cap
was
has
like,
no idea who these two people are. He doesn't know them.
well,
No.
why not? No. Well, and once I looked at it again, I was like, okay, now I know what you're talking about, but I didn't notice them, right? Because there's other people in the frame. So it's not just that I'm like, okay, who are these two people? It's what on the screen is making you react that way.
Maybe it's because they don't look very good. They really don't look good. And that's definitely a reshot sequence because the guy with the pig face, he looks like they just caked on makeup and rushed him out there. And the dude with the walrus face or whatever that is, it looks like he's wearing like a mask from like Party City, and he's
Well, that's what he looks like in the original movie. To be fair.
Yeah, I mean, I just
it doesn't
care.
it still looks better than in this movie. Like, I was not a fan of that.
I agree. It's annoying. I'm just saying there's enough time for them to escape.
There's
Every
enough
now and then.
time.
But it is annoying that it's their period. I
Well,
agree.
That dope channel agrees with you, Eric. He says that shot of blue milk was atrocious. So at least
Someone
And by the
feels
way,
my rage.
And by the way, I've been doing this for 7 years. There are a lot of strange phrases that have come out of my. I never thought I would put exactly those words. The shot of blue milk was atrocious. I want to make a quote book of these things. Stuff Cam Logan never thought he'd be saying.
Okay, so I have a question that
Yeah.
maybe someone in the comments or someone on our panel can answer for me. Okay, so it's not just that they're drinking blue milk. They're also on a farm like Luke's farm. It's the same installations outside. Now, Luke's farm is a moisture farm because they're on a desert planet. They're on a lush planet. Why are they moisture farming?
Well, that looked like European landscape. And I don't know if you know this, but that's actually incredibly barren soil. And I'm not making that up. That's factual information. It's very barren soil. So
no one can ever tell when you're being sarcastic.
I'm serious. I'm not making that up. That is that.
I know,
real.
which is why you felt the need to qualify it, and I
terrible.
needed the qualification. It's great. Eric, they imported the blue milk. They got it from somewhere.
Okay, but that's not my question. My question is,
Blue milk comes from banthas, and banthas are very, very prevalent in the galaxy. This actually isn't an issue. Blue milk is like.
I'm not asking about the blue milk.
I'm just saying.
The blue milk.
Cap said it.
Okay. I'm asking about.
They imported it, and it comes from banthas.
I wanted to know. That was my question. That was an aside. I thought we were done with this.
No, I'm asking why if they're living in like a lush place, do they need? I guess Rasco, being the smartest man in the world, was able to answer that question.
My answer, it
Could have
works.
told me in the movie.
If that is the same environment as it looks, because I don't know where they shot that, but if it is that soil, you would need a moisture farm because it would not be fertile soil. I'm just cutting through.
Oh yeah, Rasco, I'm going to give you a high five for that. Pow.
Honestly, Rasco, I don't know if I turned him around on the ending, but you turned him around on the moisture farming. Well done.
So
good job. Okay, guys, I want to go around and go ahead and knock out final thoughts. And there are certainly things that we didn't get to, but I mean we cover as much as we can. So anything that we'll do final thoughts in a second. Real quick, other topics of conversation that need to come up, and we'll rapid fire them. So anybody, go ahead and jump in. Something that we didn't get to talk about that you really want to go ahead and get us started. Go ahead.
So at the clear beginning, Mads Mikkelsen tells Krennic, you're building a technological terror or whatever, you're going to rule in terror. And then Krennic says, well, it has to be built on something. And then for the rest of the movie, you don't get talked about the Empire's ideology.
Oh, no.
Building and talking about the rebellion getting built on hope. So it's a really neat way to see the Imperial Rebellion differences between terror and hope, and I like that a lot.
I agree.
I agree. That's solid. Mm-hmm.
Maybe they could have thrown Dr. Aphra in this movie. That would have been pandering to me, then not to the mainstream, and that would have actually felt like fan service. I don't know.
I feel like she just walked by, just Dr.
I'm trying to come up with something that's like, that'd be a cool reference that I wouldn't be annoyed by.
Is that your
I feel like I'm a monster
thing?
now, and I need to cast myself off into the wasteland.
You are, but Geekvolution does not discriminate against monsters on this program. So no monsters were harmed in the making of the Spoilercast. Anybody else have anything that we didn't get to talk about that you want to bring out? There are certain characters we haven't said a whole lot about yet. So anybody that you really loved or you really didn't like that you want to come out and talk about?
I have a couple like quick little things. First of all, we sort of talked about the last shot with Jyn and Cassian, and that is, I think, like my favorite shot in any Star Wars movie now. Like I love how like hopeless but hopeful and like beautiful but terrifying that shot is. I'm okay with it not being the last shot of the movie. I actually really like all the Vader stuff, but I just had to say that about that shot because I loved it. I really, really want to see a prequel of this prequel that's all about Chirrut and Baze, because I love their relationship, and I think it's really intriguing that we have two people that are from a religious sect, and one of them has obviously rejected his religion, or at least has had some sort of crisis of faith, while the other one is still very devout, and that they're still friends, and that I love that dynamic, and I already love it a lot in this movie, but I'd love to see that backstory, and I think there's a lot there.
I'd really like to see a novel, or they do those like tales, short stories, maybe do something there.
I would eat that up. I would love that story no matter how they present it to us. Last thing, we didn't really talk about Bodhi, but he was like a surprise for me, I think, because they didn't show him a lot in the trailers, at least not that I noticed. So I was ready for Donnie Yen, I was all about that. But But Bodhi, I really liked. I feel like he had a lot to do in that final battle, and I liked all of
He's a
his
great
struggle
actor, too.
to get connected was great, and it was the most like ground level I think that we got, as far as like he was interacting with all these characters that we hadn't seen before. Really, they were just kind of like red shirts there to die.
Riz Ahmed is such a good actor.
He's so
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, it was
I
a
love
really
him. Go watch
great. Everything
Nightcrawler.
he
He's
was
in-
in was great. Yeah.
You know, and I think Dan Gilroy really likes him because Tony Gilroy co-wrote this movie, which he also co-wrote Nightcrawler. He also co-wrote Bourne. He also co-wrote Jason Bourne. Riz Ahmed is in all of those movies, and I really hope that Riz Ahmed gets more work because he's really good. Great actor.
He's really
Yeah,
awesome.
that's all I wanted to say. It was just those quick 3 things.
No, that's great, and there's all kinds of things we could jump on to talk about things you just brought up. They were really smart, I think, not to show us much of him in the trailer and for us not to know anything about his character going in, because I don't know if you guys had this, but I expected him to be like a triple agent. I thought he would turn on them. And,
What does that make you, triple agent?
Jonesy!
I also wanted to.
I'm CIA!
I also want to mention something about that.
CIA.
Why, Jonesy? I also wanted to mention something about that last scene as Lo was talking about it. You know what Sarah said after she saw it? My wife. Sarah asked me if I was getting flashbacks to Watchmen.
Huh?
Why?
When Dan and Lori in the dream sequence disintegrate, and she was reminded of that scene. And I didn't even think of it, but I was like, yeah, that is kind of silly. It's an entirely different context, and you don't see their skeletons. But
If I kind of want to make that shot like my background on my computer, and just see how many people think it's a couple in a sunset. Just like kind of let people just walk past and say like, oh, that's a pretty sunset.
the corner of that wallpaper in like type 4 font says hashtag this movie should have ended here.
Oh,
The
and
end
I
of this movie.
just to be, because I love this shot so much. I love that they don't have a romantic connection.
Yeah.
And they didn't force, like, I don't feel like that was like our last shot that was supposed to mean that they were romantic in any way. I just think that they're two friends who have grown together and they're both facing death and they both have just completed the mission that they set out to do. And it's just like, we know that we're going to die. Here we are right before we die, sort of a thing. And I really appreciated that.
Yeah.
I heard somebody say that.
But if they survive, they get married. I really think that, and I was seeing a lot of a couple parallels to the parents of what's his face? Help me out. Poe Dameron from the prequel
How could
comic.
you forget Poe Dameron's name?
I was gonna do that.
Yeah, well, sometimes names just don't immediately come to me, Lo. Anyway, but they reminded me of possibly like proto versions of his parents from that prequel comic.
Yeah, I was kind of getting, as the film went on, I was getting more and more romantic is maybe the wrong word,
But undertones, potential, romantic potential.
It's the Speed thing.
Yeah.
If you remember in Speed, they talk about how when you and someone else go through an experience, you naturally grow together and tend to form relationships out of that. And that's what I'm getting from this is they're building that relationship from this really intense experience, like in Speed.
Yeah,
And they're already really interesting people to compare to each other and have gone through things that nobody else would really understand, but like the other sides of them. So when they actually come together, they would make sense as a unit.
Mm.
You know, a lot that like they were both brought up in the rebellion, but she hates the rebellion and he doesn't know anything but to love it. Like all of the comparisons you can make to them make me think that they're kindred spirits.
And if they kiss at the end before the apocalypse hits them, it's the best romance in any Star Wars movie. Like, it's 1,000 times better than the prequels.
It ain't
I
Han
didn't
and
need them to do that, but I would have maybe been okay with it. I don't know. Either way for me.
It ain't Han and Leia. I heard a reviewer say that they really didn't like that it felt like a sloppy edit where they're like hugging and then Diego Luna like opens up his eye and turns his head and then it cuts. That it's a heartbreaking look on his face, like he's feeling the heat from the thing that's about to hit him.
Yeah.
And his eye opens up, and it looks like there's tears, like, but it's from far away, and he's got those eyes that are really expressive, and like, oh, it's heartbreaking, and then it crushes him, and that was great. I really like that the kyber crystal that she has on her necklace and how it comes to play in a very subtle way. We have Donnie Yen is drawn to her, and he says, the strongest stars have hearts of kyber, and she wears it on a necklace next to her heart, and I really like that. But also, the Death Star has a heart of kyber crystals, and I think that's a really neat parallel between Jin and the Death Star.
I'd like to answer real quick a question in the comments. J-Man says, Cap, what was your reaction? And I will not get back into my argument with Eric, I promise. But Cap, what was now? If he decides to start that again, that's his prerogative. But I'm not going to initiate it. Cap, what was your reaction when it looked like they were going to pull off a Vader lightsaber slaughterfest? My immediate reaction when he pulls the lightsaber and the lightsaber blade comes out, the beam, was, you guys earned this. I was expecting lightsaber fights through this entire movie. I kept waiting for something like that to happen. One thing I was really impressed with is when the blind guy Imwe,
it's in big white. You don't have to pick it up when
he oh yeah, that's true. This is an Imwe. Anyway, when he is chanting and walking out toward the end, just before his death, with all the blaster rays coming at him, and he's cradling the top of his stick, I really expected the lightsaber to turn on. And I thought it was really cool they didn't do that. I thought we were building to that, because remember, this is before you have any sense that all of our major characters are going to die in this. We'd only lost one, or maybe he was the first one we lost.
I think we lose
we lose the droid, yeah. And also, it took me a while to even realize that was, I think I'm right, that's supposed to be a lightsaber hilt. And I don't know where he got it. He probably just picked it up somewhere.
I also got lightsaber hilt off.
But I think it's supposed to be a lightsaber hilt, which is
they're living
cool.
in a Jedi temple. You remember there's that big statue that's on the ground with a Jedi, which is one of the coolest shots.
And it's also kind of cool that we're going after kyber crystals, and he's got like an empty lightsaber that wouldn't turn on. So like that's pretty cool. But I love that as a walking stick, and that you know, that's such a cool idea. Anyway, I really thought they earned it. And that's part of why I think it's fine that that's there. But anyway.
See, I hate that we have to make movies where we have to earn pandering. Like, no, you did a really good job of making a real movie.
But that's not
so
what
you
I mean.
Get this thing.
Okay, we're doing this again.
We're not doing this.
But I feel like it's still a movie. I don't feel like it's pandering. I feel like when it finally, what I mean when I say, because you're putting words in my mouth, when I say that they earned it, I don't mean they earned pandering. I mean that they finally turn on a lightsaber and it feels like it needs to be there. And you don't think so, and I do, and that's fine. But I'm just saying I'm not that I don't think I don't think it's pandering. So they didn't earn the pandering. They earned a thing that I wouldn't think they could earn, and they did.
I do appreciate that the door doesn't spark like the opening of A New Hope. I was really worried that was what's going to happen. But then he's just standing there, and it's a cool scene. I don't think it belongs at the end of this.
I thought that what they were going to do is his lightsaber was going to ignite and then it would cut away. And I would have been really bummed out if they did that. But when he slams the guy against the ceiling...
Well, given Godzilla,
I would
be surprised.
Oh my god, it was great.
I also really small, fanboy thing. The idea of making the kyber crystal, the crystal that's inside the lightsaber, makes a lot of sense and should have just been what we did instead of... Because in Legends, the kyber crystal is 9 different things because everyone heard that George Lucas had a thing in his script called a kyber crystal, and so we just keep using it. Making it the actual crystal for lightsaber makes that's a great way to use that term. It's not a thing because it's something different every time it shows up. But
and Eric, once again, you and I as an old married couple has come up in the comments, of course, naturally. Okay, Did Rasco or Eric, anybody else have a thing you want to make sure we talk about before we give final thoughts and go ahead and wrap this up? I don't want to take more than 5 or 10 minutes.
No, I'm good.
Okay.
I was just gonna say I really I saw people complain that Darth Vader wasn't in this movie enough. I'm not gonna name names, but some reviewers on the internet said this, and it bothered me because I think that actually Darth Vader's in this movie the perfect amount if you watch this back to back with the original trilogy, because you just get barely anything with him. You set up his home, and then you get to see him just go to town at the end. And then the next movie, he's in it more, but not quite enough to where you could truly call Vader a truly fleshed out character. There's a lot there, but then it builds perfectly with Empire and then Return of the Jedi. So I think that he's in this movie the perfect amount if you watch this back to back with A New Hope.
I also think he's in this the perfect amount for a standalone movie. Like when he showed up in the trailer, everyone was like, "Oh my God, Darth Vader!" I was like, I feel like the ballsier choice would be to not have him or have him a very little bit. And I think they did that. They had him a very little bit. I really liked how little he's in this movie, and he's still a really menacing force that's in the background.
Yeah, and he feels necessary. It feels like the it's required. Like you always said it would be a bolder choice if he wasn't there, but they're putting him there, and obviously there's business in that, but they did it in the smartest way possible, which because we are trying to make money with our movies. But it's also.
Yeah, there was a man who wasn't trying to make money with his movies, and his name was George Lucas.
But I'm just saying, it also ends up feeling like it ought to be there because of how important he ends up being to Death Star stuff. And like I said with that last scene, it makes me understand more like why he's so committed to all of that by the end.
And I'm not going to complain about Lava Castle.
Yeah,
I wish there were gargoyles like there is in the original.
I also wish there were gargoyles, but we need gargoyles. We need more gargoyles in everything, with the exception of the Arkham Batman game
and Frankenstein. Less gargoyles in Frankenstein.
There should not be as many gargoyles in that. But other than that, yeah. Anyway, okay. Final thoughts. Anybody may begin or bow out if you said everything.
Is this just the quick wrap up?
Quick wrap up. That's it. Yep.
Words of Orson Welles. I thought this film was delicious.
That's great. Rasco, final thoughts.
This was everything I really wanted this movie to be. I like this movie more than The Force Awakens. I'm kind of in camp with Eric on that. Yeah, I really enjoy this movie. For life.
Oh, we forgot to talk about James Earl Jones's voice. We didn't
it's
bring
not
that
good. He's just too
old. It gets progressively worse.
Yeah,
it's unfortunate.
It's like he did it in one take and he's losing it as he's talking.
That's what I thought. Well, I know that sounds awful, but I said the same thing to my wife. I'm like, yeah, they should have brought him in like 5 times for one for each line. Anyway, Lo, what are your final thoughts?
I loved this movie. Yes, it has flaws, but I thought it was fantastic. I can't wait to see it again. It's definitely one of my favorite Star Wars movies. I loved it. Good job, Star Wars team.
When I first watched this, I probably gave it a 7. And the more I was thinking about it, it was going down to a 6.5. Rewatched it. I'm probably firm at a 7.5, but I see it going up to an 8. I really like it. I think the last 45 minutes are exceptional. Gareth Edwards as a director is sensational, and it's visceral action. I wish it was like that the whole movie. Not just like I want it to be one huge action scene, but I wanted that same visceral power to be there and I think he honestly could have done it. And there's inklings of it throughout, but I have a lot of issues with the minutia in the first 2 acts. But I think he does get progressively better as it goes on. Ben Mendelsohn is amazing. I'd probably rank this around Return of the Jedi, trying to think if I like this more or less. They're a fighting contest right now between 4th and 5th best Star Wars movies. So that's where I'm at right now.
My final thought is that I love the Mon Calamari.
Yeah.
And
man, did I learn things about Cap's offensive demeanor towards the Mon Calamari?
Oh. They are the most fun and funniest creature on screen, and I grew up thinking they were great and always laughing at them. And I got a whole bunch of them, and it was so funny because they keep doing these big close-ups on them, and we get like the big man, and they're always happy. Like the Mon Calamari are always so happy. They make so much sense to me. They have more hope than anybody. That's why Akbar has to be the one that says, "May the Force be with you," because he's so happy, and he's got optimism, and
built on calamari.
Yes, hope is built on calamari, and they like they're an appetizer, and they're just so happy, and we got 2 of them constantly in the same scene going back and forth between them. And that was the best. No, I don't know where this falls for me right now. It is somewhere between like 2nd or 3rd favorite. I'm really happy.
Well, I guess everybody's doing like a ranking thing. It's fighting for 3rd for me. With I rank the Star Wars movies backwards. I go Return, Empire, A New Hope. This is fighting with A New Hope.
I think I like it more than Empire. Or not Empire, excuse me. I
Whoa.
love Empire. No, that's not what I meant. I think I like it more than Jedi.
But I like Jedi more than most people.
Yeah.
Jedi is my number one.
Is
And
that
it has
awesome?
been. I
think Jedi's got it where it counts on a character level that this one just doesn't have. But it also is
But
building
that's-
off the other movies, so whatever.
Yeah, that's fair. But like right now, having seen it twice, like obviously,
Yeah.
that could totally change.
Yeah,
Something
it
else could
could.
happen.
It always
And I
changes.
can notice the thing that makes me go, oh wait, that's not as smart as I thought it was. I got duped. Y'all duped me. But anyway, well,
You remember when I made the X-Men comic about Dupe?
dupe. Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. That lasted 3 issues, I'm sure. Anyway, everybody, thanks always for watching. We sure appreciate it. Hope you had a good time with us. Thanks for watching live if you did that. Thanks for watching after the fact.
Sorry, we kept
You
arguing.
did that later. No, you don't have to apologize for that. Debates
Sorry,
are-
I kept
debates are fun.
arguing.
And I thought all of that was quite productive. I'm glad that everybody felt comfortable in just saying what was on their mind. You guys were all great. Thanks for being here. Sure appreciate it. And we will be with you again. Next live show will be next. I know tomorrow we're doing Comic Book Late Night. Yeah, so all new Comic Book Late Night live tomorrow night at 10 p.m. Central. Eric and I will be counting down our new comics. Lo, I think, will be out of town, but we'll see her again shortly, I'm sure. And then the Sunday after that, of course, a brand new episode of Geeks Not Nerds Live.
No, the Sunday after that is Christmas. You will be gone.
Excuse me, Sunday after that. Yes, of course. That's Christmas. Thanks for mentioning.
You all better be here on
'Cause I was
Christmas. We
be here
were
on
testing
Christmas.
your commitment.
I was not looking at a calendar. Thanks very much. Anyway, folks, we appreciate you. Had a really great time. Of course, as always, leave comments. Let us know what you thought of this movie, and feel free to battle it out with us in the comments and talk about what you thought about some of our arguments. And in the meantime, I was Captain Logan. Pardon me. And this was Eric Holden.
I was Eric.
And Connor Nielsen. And the Curious Low.
thanks for coming, everybody.
And Jackson Rasco. Bye. Once again, I am Captain Logan saying
Oh, that's
good
his
night.
greeting and leaving voice.
Good night. Got to figure out who some more of these people are. Hold on.